Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm finally back after like a 3-month hiatus. I'm sure you guys are very happy to see me. But today we've got a State Cup game between Roseville Premier, which is in black, and Santa Rosa United, which is in yellow. It's a U16 State Cup knockout, and it's definitely going to get a little bit more than just interesting. Let's start up the game review. For this State Cup match, it's going to be a little bit interesting on the referee side. We've got Dad in the center. We've got Carlos on the near side and me on the far side. We're actually going to have training referees on the AR side. So Roseville actually offers this really good program for new and developing referees to help grow their confidence and learn from someone a little bit more experienced. So the official referees are going to be in red, while the two training referees on each side are going to be in yellow. They're just here to mimic what we're doing, and we're going to be explaining our thought process throughout the game. However, because they are new in training, we are going to be making all the decisions while they are just following us. Kick off!
We're in the second minute of the match. We've got our first decision. Ball's coming left or right as Yellow tries to cross the midline on an attack. And here we're going to see Yellow touches this ball, trying to send it back into his teammate. Just as Black's trying to toe poke it out, Yellow just trips over that leg that was there trying to get that ball. So it looks kind of bad on the screen, but I thought that it was just a simple foul in real time. And I also wasn't really considering stopping a promising attack at this point, just given the position on the field crossing midline and there was multiple defenders in the way. About a minute later, we've got Yellow bringing the ball across midfield here. This player in black's going to try to take the ball from him. He's going to step in front of him right there. You know, he kind of misses the ball, and so this player ends up tripping, going down hard. I didn't think it was reckless because he actually ended up in front of the player with a reasonable attempt at the ball. I thought he just missed it. It did, however, though, those last two fouls have been, a little bit. Players gone down hard, so I made a mental note of this player's number to kind of watch for that as we go on.
Our next decision is going to be one called by your most humble AR ever, and it's actually going to be called offside. So right around here is the moment of decision, and we can see that the player in the black, pretty fairly offside. So we're going to see it, but it's not so cut and dry for this one. So when the ball goes, we can actually see that the defense tries and plays the ball. Before the rule change, if a defender had touched it, then that means that it basically just resets the offside, so nobody is going to get an offside foul at that point. But based on a new rule change, the defensive player has to have a good chance at being able to control the ball. And a header, especially when it's going at that velocity, at that height, even when he made that touch on it, he still does not have a good chance of possessing the ball, and ultimately that means that the play isn't going to be reset and that player is still offside. So we immediately call the offside foul made by me, and it is correct. Our next decision is going to be offside, not made by me this time. So right now he's about to be gearing up for the kick, and here we go, and this right here is the moment of decision, and we can see that our little Roseville player over here, he looks, mighty somewhat into the penalty box. And when we look to the player that it's going to go to, the yellow player, far over the corner, look at the cursor. But based on what we have for the video, I think we got this one wrong.
You gotta take a deduction.
Carlos, what are we doing here?
Immediately off the restart from that offside call, the ball is coming up to these players who are going to battle for it. And then we're going to see that the black player ends up going down there. Unfortunately, the way the camera is, I'm immediately in the way. But there was a little clip on his ankle. It was light, and so I actually considered not calling it. And then I was just processing it and decided ultimately, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and bring that one back. And all right, same minute here. Yellow is actually kind of trying to chase this ball down. This black player is in defense. And this ball comes into the corner right there. Yellow just gets a little too over aggressive for it, goes through this player's back. Super easy one to call. And also Carlos, you can see him over here. He's waving his flag, helping me out there as well. So, a couple minutes later, we've got a corner kick that's coming in. Ball's going to bounce around for grabs. And right over here, it comes up to this black attacker who has his arm out just a little bit too far. So makes that an easy handball call and give the direct free kick to yellow coming out. Okay, minute 14, we're watching these players here in the middle, number 21 in yellow, and then the black player there in front of him. Black's about to get this ball, and then 21 decides he's going to go and grab an armful here, so he actually grabs him by the arm to pull him back. It's clearly a hold. Went ahead and called that as a simple foul and gave the direct free kick. You can see, again, Carlos helps me out, waving his flag and talking to those assistant referees about what he's seeing there.
What a boss.
Couple more minutes later, the ball's coming in on a throw-in. Yellow's going to get it here into the penalty area, start to threaten a bit. But then when the ball comes down, he misses that kick. And then just when it bounces up, it hits him right there on the hand that's really out and away from his body. So
obvious.
Don't get a whole lot simpler than that to call for a handball. 17th minute. Ball's coming down. Black's got control of it. And he kind of comes over here to the corner. Really throws his weight into, whipping his body around to try to kick that back to the middle. In the process, that happens all the time. Defender throws his foot out, gets it, they fall. But I wave it off as a no call. I think that's a good no call. I did get some noise from the sideline, so I did an explanation here that there was no foul there, but let's listen. No, there's no foul there. You see, the player knows there's no foul, but the sideline doesn't, so I'm just, nope.
Our next decision is going to be another offside call called by Carlos. Right now we've got yellow heading up the field, and you'll see the player on the far side, yellow player, get the ball when it's kicked out to them. And right here is the moment of decision for it. So right now it kind of looks a little bit sus, but let's explain why it could very well be correct. Number 8, his body is more condensed into the penalty box, while we see that the yellow player has a very wide stance, both feet are apart. And so from this angle, it could look very sus, but it's also very possible that we just have a really bad angle on it, and we can see that the foot is a little bit, possibly a little bit more into the penalty box than number 8. So I think we have to trust Carlos's decision on it and have it as a correct offside call. Around 2 minutes later, we've got another offside call, and this one's going to be made by Carlos. So right now, yellow is about to flip the field, and right here is around the moment of decision. This yellow player right here is going to be the one that is going to get called offside. But if we continue the video, we can see that there is a player right there. Maybe he might have made a run or something to make it look like that, but based on his body language for the rest of it, it looks like that's when he started running right there. So I think that that's a wrong offside call.
Sorry, Carlos. I know it's not perfect
Please.
here, but we got to go with what we see here.
Don't take away my games. For the next one, we're going to have another offside call. This is 3 in a row. And again, it's going to be on Carlos's side. This one's going to be a little bit more interesting because there's a little bit of dissent on it and it takes away a goal. So let's see it. So right now, yellow is making the play up, and we're going to see the moment of decision soon. So right here is the moment of decision, and we can see that this yellow player is leaning forward, which would make his body offside compared to number 8, it looks like, on the black team. This is probably going to be called offside, which it is, but a little bit more interesting happens further on. So let's play it. Right here is the more tricky part of this call. So we can see that black actually ends up getting a touch somewhat on the ball. Let's actually go to the laws of the game to see if this would count as a deliberate play or just a deflection. So right here we have law 11 offside, and when we go down to offside offense, deliberate play excluding handball is when a player has control with the possibility of passing the ball to a teammate, gaining possession of the ball, or clearing the ball. But here are some things that we actually need to keep in consideration for it. The ball was traveling from distance, the ball was not moving quickly, the direction of the ball was not unexpected. And the most important part for this part, the player had time to coordinate their body movement, i.e. it was not just a case of instinctual stretching or jumping or a movement that is achieved by limited body contact and control. And on top of that, a ball obviously on the ground is easier to play than a ball in the air because you can have a better possibility of control. And so let's watch this player again. So when the ball is kicked, it goes at relatively high speeds, is in the air, which means that's harder to control, and he kind of tries to get it, but it seems more, especially since it was in the air, that it was more of an instinctual lunge rather than an actual deliberate play for the ball, or with the possibility of gaining decent control. And so the yellow player would still be in an offside position and would have an offside foul called against them. So Carlos, you got this one right.
Now we end up getting some noise because the team's trying to argue, hey, it was a deliberate play, so this goal should count, but let's listen to how I explain it to them. It was a deflection. It's a deflection. It doesn't reset on a deflection. It's a deflection. It doesn't reset on a deflection. It's got to be a deliberate play. So yeah, I mean, I can't go into every word of the law of the game there. I'm just trying to explain, hey, no real chance of control there, but yeah, good call.
I'm proud of you, Carlos. Our next play, shockingly, I lied to you guys. We actually have 4 offsides in a row. And so this is, again, another one made by Carlos. These teams were not making me work this time, only Carlos. But so yellow is again on the attack. And so right here, ball is kicked, and we can see the yellow player right here is, I would say, pretty decently behind the second to last defender. And so when the ball is kicked, he comes up to get the ball. And so even though that he's technically still in an onside position now, an offside foul is still going to be called against him. So we're proud of you, Carlos. Again, another one.
About a minute later, we finally have one that's not an offside. So one of these classics, I always talk about really difficult decisions when an attacker's coming in, keeper's coming out, but we're going to see black's on the attack, comes in, and then right there, there's whole interaction. You see that yellow starts to ask for a foul, but when I play this in slow motion, and what I saw in the field is, yes, the keeper gets to this a split second before this attacker does, but he actually, I know it does, he does get the ball here. Granted, his cleats are up, so I'm watching for that. But I also saw him kind of pull his foot back in order to minimize the contact. So he saw that that was happening and went out of his way, and any contact he had there was, mostly with the ball. So I went ahead and waved that off, let that play, but it was definitely on my radar as, a couple of inches one way or the other, and that's a much different foul. But I think this is a good no call. Minute 27, we've got one that let us know in the comments what you think after watching this. We're going to call it a good no call, but the ball is up in the air. 3 players here are going to try to come in and get it. There's a bunch of clumsiness here, and then yellow goes down. I do wave that off. He is asking for a trip, but when I watch this in slow motion, I see they're all just kind of there together. There's no foul at this point, nothing here. I see black's leg just kind of come over here, and he plants it to catch himself, and then yellow initiates the contact over that planted leg. It wasn't enough for a foul for me here. I mean, I think you could argue that that's a trip, but you 16 boys, I thought they could play through it, and I didn't want to stop the game for that. So 3 minutes later, we've got our first yellow card of the match here. So yellow's going to have the ball but lose it, and then he just plows through this player's back, doesn't even try to play the ball. So that's, a yellow card every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So call that. You'll hear me, let's play the audio. You'll hear me blow the whistle very loud because I want to make sure I get everybody's attention. And then it'll go a little bit off screen, but I talk to him and just say it's a little bit too much. 13. Too hard, okay? Any kind of acknowledge, yeah, you got me.
We also have a guest for the episode.
No one likes the cats. On to minute 34, we've got black trying to get a breakaway here, and then yellow's about to get it, and he doesn't like that, so he tries to make extra space for himself, really throws his player off almost, in addition to his momentum, he stumbles quite a long way. So I blow the whistle. I didn't think that that was quite enough for a yellow, but I did decide to talk to the player. 7, that's a bit too much, all right? So just letting him know he's on my radar, and now we've had a couple of fouls that are harder going both directions.
Our next decision is going to be almost after the restart, so only 20 seconds later. And this one is going to be an offside. Hear me out, guys. Made by me, I know. No longer Carlos, you're out of the spotlight. So right now, black is on the attack, and number 8 gets the ball. And the ball gets passed to him, and when it does, me and my fellow little trainee ARs on my side immediately pop up the flag, and that's the right decision.
A couple minutes later, we've got a very simple call. The ball's on the far side of the field. Black's just kind of turning here, and then he gets clipped on the ankle and goes down. So about 30 seconds later, we've got the ball. It's going to be passed kind of into this mess of players that are near where I'm standing. So in fact, we're going to be looking at these players that are just on the other side of me. So the ball comes up here. Then when they come through, yellow just gives him an extra push in the back. So pretty easy, straightforward call on that one as well. In what I think is our final call of the first half, it's a pretty straightforward handball, trying to cross it into the middle here. Then yellow kicks it. He almost a handball, but he manages to get his arm out of the way. Good job by him. But then when he kicks this ball up again right here, I think that's number 9, black. He's just got his hand out just a hair too far. You can see it hits his arm so hard, it actually knocks his arm back around that way. So
nothing controversial.
Yeah. And that ended up being the final call of the first half. Halftime. So given that we had 23 decisions in the first half, there's a lot going on from a referee perspective in the first half, but it gets even more interesting in the second half. Because,
a lot more interesting.
All right, guys, good luck.
So guys, I've been humbled. My ego's taking a dip. Let's see why. So right now, yellow's on the attack in my side. Let's get to the moment of decision. So they're playing it, and right here, moment of decision. And I could make an argument if it was going to, the player that's very close, right? It goes to the far out player, which looks to be onside, and I call it as offside.
Yep.
I've been humbled. I've been bamboozled. I've been cooked, put into the fryer.
You're human. You're human. How did that happen?
Anyway, I've been humbled. I've been boondoggled, some even say.
On to minute 49, we're going to look here in the top of the penalty area on the far side of the field, and black is trying to bring it in on their attack. This yellow player is going to be defending, and then the ball's going to go in between them, and they get kind of tangled up here, and you see this yellow player fall down, and he asks for a foul like, hey, I was pushed. I'm very adamant out there, no foul, no foul. I thought on the field that yellow player was trying to just draw a foul. And I think, it's hard to see here when we play it because from this camera angle, this player gets in our way at the moment this decision happens. And you can't really see, does his arms extend out? I would have been looking between those players and had a reasonably good view. And I felt like that player was trying to just draw something. So I made it a no call on the field. Let us know in the comments if you think it was wrong, but I really felt like I had a better angle on it than this camera does. Let's listen to the audio because I'm pretty adamant that it's not a foul. No, nothing there. Pipe. Corner kick. I didn't see him push you. I saw you fall down. I didn't see enough to make you go down. So there, I'm just explaining to him like, hey, look, I thought you were trying to draw the foul, right? But on to minute 51, we've got a play here where yellow's got it, and then these two black players come in and really steal the ball from him. He ends up going down, and I called a trip and awarded him the ball, but I think what I missed, if I back it up, is that black actually wins the ball here, and then kind of it's yellow coming through, kind of trips himself over black who just took it from him. I think I missed this one, and we'll take the deduction for that. A couple minutes later, minute 53, we've got what could have been a very big decision in the match. The ball is coming down here. It's going to go into the penalty area, so we're going to have a penalty kick decision, but the ball goes down. Now, unfortunately, right here, when these players go down, we've got a player right in the camera angle where we can't really see what happens. But just watching the ball here, the ball has all of its momentum going in, and suddenly it kind of squirts out to the right. And so I remember on the field, I thought that was just a well-executed slide tackle.
And then you can also see me on the other side. My thing is really subtle, but what I do when I don't think when it's a call, I'll basically put my hand out like, no, don't call this, don't call this. And you can see my hand in the video also being like this. It's really subtle, especially from this far away. That's a good thing. But you can also see that I was very confident of that just being a clean slide tackle instead of an actual foul. And so I think we got that one right.
And I was pretty audible on the field explaining that I didn't think this was a foul.
No, 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 no. No foul.
Also, typically with these types of things, especially when it could have been a potential PK, the other team will argue a lot more for it. And right here, you just see them going down. They're kind of like half-heartedly, raising their hands because they want to support their teammate, right? But they back down really, really quickly when you're like, no, 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 because they know that you're not going to be able to change their mind.
Several minutes go by. We're on to minute 59. I could also feel the temperature going up in this match. I mean, it's State Cup, it's knockout round. Everybody wants to win, so they're taking it really seriously. So we're going to see a point here that I give a yellow card, and maybe if it was a lower temperature match, I might not have, but let's watch here. So these players were just kind of battling. You can see yellow asking for something. What isn't shown here is that, or at least what you can't see because of the camera angle looking, this player, see his arms back, and the black player actually had a hold of his arm and was pulling on, and he had a full handful of it. Now you can see it doesn't throw him off the ball too much. Maybe he loses it there. I think if it was a different game or earlier in the match, I might have just given a verbal warning here. But given the point we were in the game, I decide I'm going to give a yellow here. So you'll hear me come in and explain to him.
10. You grabbed him by the arm and held him.
So I did not want that to continue in the match. And, I was trying to set a tone here, halfway through the second half. Up next, we've got black trying to control the ball here, and he's going to try to kick it. He makes just very slight contact with it, but then he really mostly misses the ball and then kicks this yellow player in the stomachs, maybe even in his nether region. So very unfortunate for him. He goes down hard. But I see that his teammate gets an outlet pass right there. So even though I'm already starting to put the whistle to my mouth to call that foul, I see that this player's coming out. He's got a chance there. So I let the advantage play, signal, give the clear signal for advantage, and I think that's the right thing to do there. On to minute 64, we've got a moment here. It's kind of hard to see because the camera is kind of jumping a little bit. But we're going to look at this black player here. The ball's on the far side in this group of players. And then as the camera pans over, we see this yellow player go down. And really that black player just got a little extra arm around him there. I made that call on the field and gave a direct free kick to yellow. On to minute 66, we've got the ball, I think it's being cleared out by the goalkeeper, so it's in the air. It's going to come up to these two players here. Black's going to be in a position to get it, and yellow doesn't like that, so he pushes him out of the way.
It's very effective,
You can't do that, so I grant a direct free kick to black. A short time later, we've got black on the attack. They're just at the top of the penalty area here. We're going to look at these two players that are inside the penalty area, but coming back for the ball. Right there, they kind of get tangled up, and back it up, right here, we see this yellow player pull the arm of this black player. So that affects him and how he turns there, so he can't get the kick that he was hoping for. You can see he starts to, hey, where's the foul? Now, I blew that right away, but I also make particular note of where it is on the field because obviously, you know, a few inches one way or the other, and this is a penalty kick. So I make it really clear to them as quickly as I can, this is not a penalty kick.
Right here, I got a pull outside the box, outside the box.
I just want them to know from the beginning, and nobody should be upset that this isn't a penalty kick. Okay, on to minute 72. I've had to switch the camera over into panoramic modes because unfortunately the normal view didn't capture this. It was looking someplace else. We're going to look here on the far side of the field. It's difficult to see in this mode, but there's these two players and they're bumping, and then, you know, it's just an extra, you know, bump in the back too many. So I go ahead and I call that. I grant a kick for black, so no drama there at all. But then as we play it, this yellow player intentionally kicks the ball away to prevent black from getting a quick restart and basically generally delay the game. So remember, they're winning 1-0 here, and it's, you know, we're getting into the later stages of the game. So I felt that was unsporting. I pull the card out of my hand. Now you'll notice that as I'm walking over to give this card to this player, you'll notice that I stop and I look at the sideline. So I'm going to switch it back over to the normal view so that you can hear what's said. Unfortunately, this side doesn't have the audio, but let's switch back over there. I hear a bunch of spectators start saying, "Hey, that's a yellow, you need to give him a yellow." And then I stop and talk to them.
What the hell do you think this is?
You know, I've already got the yellow in my hand and I'm walking over to them and I've got a sideline of spectators saying, "You got to give him a yellow." Well, what do you think I've got in my hand? All right. So
I'm just pointing this out, guys. I was like listening to it. I was like, that seems mighty familiar. And then I was like, what's that from? King of the Hill. So, main character.
What the hell do you think this is?
I would just like to say, voice impressionist over here.
What in the hell?
On to minute 73. We've got a pretty straightforward call here. The ball's coming over, and this yellow player just completely misses the ball. Like, sticks his foot out. He's late to there. This player goes down. Could potentially consider a card there, but it wasn't quite enough in my book. And even looking at it here, I think it's okay to not card that, but definitely a foul.
He looks down on that player with the goalie. Look at his face. Like, look at what eye contact. It's crazy.
We're on to minute 78. There has been a goal that's been scored in the interim, so now we are tied in this State Cup knockout match. These two players here, and we're going to see a player do what I think is kind of taking a dive. So right there, this ball is coming up, and, you know, they kind of hit shoulder to shoulder. He flops down. He's clearly, in my mind, trying to, you know, sell a penalty kick. I am not buying what he's selling, so I don't grant a PK here. It is kind of interesting though that after this, the black team gets a shot, and then the yellow team tries to argue that I should card him for simulation. We see this player here, who I think was the team captain. He's trying to convince me that I should card that player for simulation.
Hey, what? Hey, what? So, simulation, you only call it if...
Doesn't matter.
Do you want an explanation or do you just want to argue?
He's trying to argue, but doesn't want to actually hear the explanation. So shut it down pretty quick. In our final call of regulation, we've got a corner kick that's coming up. We're going to watch these two players here, and there's a little bit of pushing, you know, before or nudging each other, but then they kind of lean in. And I thought I saw this player give an extra with his elbow. I call that and I give yellow a kick there. I think I had been watching some of the earlier interactions, but it looks kind of light here. I don't know if it's enough for a full deduction, but what do you think, Katie? Half point?
I think that, like, technically, based off the rules, you maybe could call it, but, like, based on how we've been calling the rest of the game, I would say that, yeah, 0.5 deduction.
So regulation in this game ended in the 1-1 tie. So per the NorCal rules for State Cup, we do 2 5-minute halves with no golden goal. We're now 4 minutes into the first part of that, when we've got yellows bringing the ball up, and we're going to see he handles the ball, and then as he's coming through, he kind of stumbles there, and then he comes back and he wants a foul. Now, he actually ends up arguing here because I don't give a foul. I do this as a no call, and I actually give him a yellow card here for dissent. But let's go back and let's break this down. So as he's, dancing with the ball here, what I thought I saw happen is right here, I thought this black player reached in and toe poked it. I thought he'd gotten the ball. I didn't necessarily see totally illegal contact afterwards, and so I thought it was kind of a good slide tackle. I mean, yellow retains possession, but that's why I made it a no call. But as we've watched this in slow motion, what we end up seeing here is yellow's bringing the ball around, and yellow's foot gets to that ball just a split second before black's does. And so black doesn't actually get the ball, and then he comes through his foot there. So yeah, that should have been a foul. I should have called that. Now, we also listened to him argue here, so I do give him a card for arguing.
Nothing there. There's no foul there.
We want the foul!
So I go ahead, I stop play there because he's arguing, he's yelling. So I go ahead and give him the yellow there for dissent. But I do think he's, with the benefit of the video and being able to play it multiple times in slow motion, I do think he's correct that I should have called the foul. So I think it'll be a correct decision for the yellow card for dissent, because you can't do that even if the ref got it wrong. But it's one of those I'm a little bit sheepish about, because I think he's right that I should have called that. So we're into minute 86 here of the 10-minute overtimes, or the 2 5-minute overtimes. And the ball is just kind of being cleared up from the backside. This black player here is going to try to handle it, but in the process, he sticks his arm out, and the ball just hits him in the arm right there. And don't know what he was trying to do, but very
Not really
easy,
controversial.
easy call to make.
Leading up into our major thing that's about to happen, we have an offside call made by me. Yellow's on the attack, and they're about to get the ball. And right here, he sends it to his teammate. And right about here is the moment of decision. And we can see that the yellow player is kind of leaning in, and the Roseville player nearer to us is trying to get the ball. So he's a little bit closer to us than the yellow player, and so the yellow player is offside. And so when we continue this, yellow player gets the ball. Me and my crew, we'd raise up our flags. Roseville has been wanting really fast restarts because they've been down the entire time and they made up a goal, and now they want to make up a goal because there's only 2 minutes left, right? And so they've been really wanting those fast restarts. So they throw the ball back, and let's look at what the yellow player does. The yellow player, to delay the game, immediately stands in front of the ball. You would think that the Roseville players would let the referee deal with it, get him his yellow card, make him go to 10. Now, Roseville, in their very calm reaction to, the player interceding with the 10 yards, decides that the best course of action is to drag him to 10 yards. And so obviously the yellow player pushes him off. And, they get into a fight. Now, instead of breaking up the fight, the goalie decides to absolutely body the other player. And so then the yellow players start coming in. They're trying to break up the fight. And so far, when we continue to see it, Roseville's the one that's trying to continue to instigate the other team. And when we continue forward, the one player that got shoved off is continuing to shove, but all the other yellow players are trying to continue to break up the fight along with Dad. Basically, mass confrontation dies down a little bit. People need to be separated, and then a few cards are given out.
So now with all of that happening, if I go back to the start of this, one of the things is I'm walking away and I'm not really looking at what's happening behind me. I get a little bit complacent there, so that's a lesson for me that I need to be watching that area. But let's listen to the audio of how this whole thing plays out, because I very quickly do realize what's happening, and I blow my whistle really loud and try to go in and control the situation as much as I can.
Guys, stop right now, stop, guys, stop. Hey, stop.
Now I want to give some credit to Katie and her sideline because she goes up and she's watching to see if anybody tries to enter the field, if any parents or anything on her side. So perfect work from the AR side. Carlos is coming out here. He's seen that only the coach came out to try to help, and he's coming out to try to take notes.
And also respectfully, I am not getting into a bunch of group of like guys my age that are probably like 50 pounds heavier. Thank you, but no thank you.
Now let's watch a little bit more as this plays out.
Stop, guys.
So now the coaches come out, they tell all their players to stop. That's really good. These are really hard situations as a referee because on one hand you want to, track the numbers of everybody who did every little thing. On the other hand, you want to just break up the fight and stop it. And so I will be honest with you, at that moment, I wasn't trying to think of all the numbers. I knew, we were going to have something happen. So I end up going over and I talked to Carlos and at least ask him what he saw in terms of numbers.
So I've got at least one red on 17 black. Did you have anything else?
I just saw
There's a bunch of other
multiple pushing on the goalie 22. He came in just.
So I'm going to give a red to 17. I'm going to give a yellow to 22.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes.
Just to put in my 2 cents, I saw 3 guys on my guy. Not to make my
There was a
guys
lot.
okay
There was a lot.
The number 22 is the goalkeeper, and I was on the fence about whether or not to give him a red card or a yellow card. So I hadn't seen everything that he had done. We might have talked about it a little bit more, and I might have had Katie come over and get her input as well, which is something I regret that I didn't do. But I also want to point out this coach comes in and tries to give his input, and that distracts us. So now I'm forced to manage him and get him out of the situation, and that distracts us from getting it correct. So let's listen to that.
Just to put in my 2 cents, I saw 3 guys on my guy. Not to make my
There was
guys
a lot.
okay
There was a lot. There was a lot. There was a lot.
Actually, watching the fight again, I think I should have given a red to both of those players instead of a yellow to the goalkeeper. But a portion of that was that coach came out and distracted us right at the moment that we were talking about it. So if you're a coach watching this, just understand, you're not going to help us at all in that situation. And in fact, you might end up making the situation worse by trying to interject here. But I do end up going ahead and giving this red card.
Wow! You're calling them out.
22. Yellow on him.
So I proceed to give the red to him, and then I give the yellow to the goalkeeper. So it's really hard in a mass confrontation like this to truly score it in our Sapper score setup, but we're going to try. First, that player who delayed the restart, the yellow player, probably should have gotten a card if I had seen it. That's going to be an incorrect decision. And then we've got the other 2 players who did end up getting cards, and there's going to be 2 decisions there. One for do they get a card, and then 2, what color card. And one of those think it's correct to give him a red card. The other one, we gave him a yellow when it probably should have been red. There's definitely some things we could do better there. Okay, in our final decision of this match, it's still tied 1-1. We're in the final minute of overtime, and it's literally off the restart following the mass confrontation. Of the indirect kick for the offside offense, the ball comes up, they kind of one-time it back here, and the ball's bouncing into the penalty area. And then we're going to see number 9 there, the defender, push down this player inside of that penalty area. I want to highlight that the ball goes through here, and I see it rolling back towards the line, but I also see this player maybe having a chance to come up and get this. So I do not immediately blow the whistle. I'm waiting to see if he can complete that and score the goal. Now, he doesn't quite get there in time. He just barely misses it. So I do end up coming and I call the penalty kick.
So the main discussion with this was it DOGSO, was it SPA, and what color card should we give in that situation because it is inside the penalty box. Now with it, any card inside the penalty box, if it was an attempt to play the ball and it's the attacking side, will automatically be downgraded. Like a red card will be downgraded to a yellow card will be downgraded to just a normal PK. And that's only if you are attempting to play the ball. Now, let's see what number 9 does for it. It looks like, to me, like he tries and shields the ball from the other player because you can see that the goalie is really close to getting the ball. At the same time, he was still attempting to play the ball by shielding the ball. And then on top of that, it's also in the air, which means that it's a lot harder to control than just a ball on the ground, which again means that not a 100% thing of a plausible, good control on it. It doesn't seem like with the yellow player actually being shielded, there was an obvious chance of him scoring. It's not as obvious as you would think it is, especially with the ball being in the air, which makes it less likely to actually gain really good control over it. So in that situation, I think it would be SPA, and since it's inside the box and it was a semi-attempt to play the ball, it would be downgraded to a normal PK.
I'll also tell you that with so much happening in this game, having had a mass confrontation literally less than a minute before this happened, my brain was just still processing all of that. When this happened, taking all of that into consideration and then looking for the advantage, I did not have the mental bandwidth to go through all those considerations Katie just mentioned, right? Luckily, in the video, we think we got it right, but it wasn't because of the great skill that I had at the moment. That's something for me to learn. So I want to also highlight, when I come in here and I award this penalty kick, the camera pans over and we see this coach. He's running up the sideline. He had left his spot because his technical area is technically to the right of the camera. So he's running all the way up to argue for a foul here because he thinks I'm not going to call it. And he doesn't realize that I'm just waiting to see if the advantage plays out. So I'm going to play this here with the audio from the camera because it's got better sounds of what happened on the sideline. So you're going to hear the sideline get really upset when they think that this penalty kick is not getting awarded. So you'll hear the coach yell, so yeah, that coach is like losing his mind there, thinking that I'm not going to call that, and he's running up. And you actually hear Carlos yelling, "Coach, coach, coach, you got to get..." So I appreciate Carlos calling him back. And I think he even told me after this match that he told the guy, like, look, like, he's got it. He's just waiting to see if your player scores, right? And so that ended up being the final call of overtime. Yellow did get a chance at this penalty kick. The keeper, I believe, actually ended up saving this, so it did actually go to kicks. And I believe this black team ended up winning in the penalty kicks when the game was all said and done. So we're not going to go through all of those. So kudos to them for the win. These state cup matches with older boys where it's knockout, you know, they're going to take it super seriously. They're going to put everything into it. And as the games stay tight, that mass confrontation felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. But, you know, had I been looking, the real lesson for me there is I need to look in that area a little bit more, though it's frustrating because sometimes I've been told by some mentors that I look too much in that area, so I need to be looking where the ball is going to be going. So you always second guess yourself whenever something like that happens. But so let's check how our Sapper score went. So with 48 decisions and 7.5 deductions, this gives us a Sapper score of 84%. So that is in the range that we qualify as an okay game, not a great game. Unfortunately. Now, 3 of those poor decisions were offside decisions, which didn't have a big impact. And a couple of them are from the mass confrontation where we probably should have scored that out a little bit differently. So the rest of the game I felt like was a good game, but yeah, those definitely impacted the score. So thank you for joining us on this one. I think there's a lot to pick up from this particular episode.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Scott.
And we'll see you out on the pitch. Oh, me again. Oh my god. Stop. That ain't offside.
That doesn't look offside.
That ain't offside, gang. Carlos. Bro's pulling more than me. I actually pull a lot. Just not the guys that I want, guys. Pulling more than me. They're pulling arms, not chicks.
I can't, like, I like fine with you being here, but you can't be pushing the buttons.
She's not pushing the buttons.
Look at that cat hair. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. What the heck?
Yuck.
What do you want to call it? I think if this was Carlos, we'd be deducting.
I am deducting.
Okay.
Why are all the wrong calls made by offside?
I know. Okay. All right, you're up, offside.